Hello, 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 folks. How are we? We are here for the world's biggest boilermaker tasting ever. And we are here joined by two incredible booze makers and two good friends that have been an intrinsic part of this incredible story. This is, of course, the Westward virtual tasting for all of your whiskey loving needs. I'm Seamus, the director of whiskey over at the Whisky Club, and I am very, very excited to be joined by one, Mr. Miles Munroe, the man behind every bottle of Westward that you see before you. And two, Ashur, the head brewer and man behind every single can of Stomping Ground. Mate, it's good to have you both on.
Thanks for having us.
It's an absolute pleasure to get the two of you in one virtual room after years ago getting the chance to get the two of you into a real life room. But yeah, what an incredible bringing together of some amazing craft brands.
God, yeah. What was that? A little over 2 years ago, we made the beer, right? And then over like 3 years ago, we first started talking about this.
Yeah. 2 years ago, almost to the day, we brewed the beer.
Ashur, I met you in, I think it was like April of 2022 is when you let me crash a brew day. 6 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'd been talking for a little while prior to that, a few months with Margot from Westward as well. And you came in and that was a fun time. That was a fun project.
I mean, again, I've said it a bunch, but thank you for letting me, get on the deck with you and just start making beer.
Thanks for reciprocating.
I'm an ex-brewer, of course. That's like
exactly.
You never touch another man's kettle. It's
kettle.
Hands on.
There's an amazing. Well, there's many amazing reasons why we're together here, and most of it come in this bottle and this can. But I think it's a really long story. And for all the members who are watching along and who will join us, please, we have these two. They're up for answering any questions that you can throw at them. So please do hop in the comments for that. And then my second piece of housekeeping is you're going to hear the name Margot dropped occasionally throughout this tasting. And it's a shame she couldn't join us today, but Margot was everything Westward on this side of the planet, an intrinsic part of so many amazing booze creation stories. So if you're unfamiliar with her, or maybe you met her at a tasting, she was a part of the Westward Company and a part of coming up with this whole concept. So that's just a little bit of context. But Miles, I mean, I feel like we'll start with the whiskey. Ashur, we'll throw to the beer, and then we'll bring it all together. Miles, for anyone who is having this as their first Westward, tell us about Westward Distillery.
Wow. I mean, this is a great and totally unorthodox intro, but in a way, it kind of makes sense for who we are, right? So yeah, I'm the master blender for Westward Whiskey. We're in Portland, Oregon, in the northwest of the U.S. We've been around for 21 years, and we've always made single malt. That's just a rarity in the U.S., right? We're pretty much known for bourbon, but where we are is really perfect weather for growing barley, and that's why we have this rich brewing heritage in Portland, and really what guided us to making the kind of whiskey that we make. So I mentioned before, as a brewer, we're all ex-brewers at Westward, so that has a huge impact on how we make the whiskey, how we approach flavor creation, and what we're doing with it. And so, I mean, this, again, an unorthodox thing, right? We've never done this before, but rooted in beer. And to me, that's Westward all over. We are rooted in beer, from, the kind of barley that we select, how it's malted, to, the beer yeast that we use for fermentation, to just, brewing techniques that we use throughout the entire distillation process. So this is such a cool thing to kind of bring together with Westward, because we've got our sort of mainstays, right? We've got our sort of flagship, but then another one of our releases, one of our, I guess, other sort of commonly found releases, a core product, is the stout cask finish, which is Westward finished in casks that have held stout beer that we just give to local brewers all around here in Portland. So this is just a bigger, better, loftier, nearly impossible thing that we decided to pull off with y'all.
Yeah, and this is like There was two things that immediately I got excited about when I was visiting the distillery for the first time in Ashur. I'm sure it'll be similar for you on at least one of them. The main thing was in your distillation regime and your brewing setup, there's no margin for error. You have to nail your brew to nail your spirit. Like a lot of I want people to appreciate a lot of the reasons that distilleries have really tall copper necks is it's an extractive purpose. It's hiding imperfections. It's cleaning up spirit. It's cleaning up wash. Your distillery is not set up like that at all. You have to have a perfect tasting beer because you want all that flavor to come straight through into the whiskey, right?
Yeah, exactly. We've made it really hard on ourselves for that reason alone. Is good flavor. Exactly. I mean, we have these custom pot stills that are really unforgiving as far as any kind of reflux refinement in that way. A lot of our effort is in the beginning of the process when we're doing that fermentation. Basically we're making an unhopped pale ale, right? That we distill into whiskey, and it's on its own. The wash is terrific. So it's a unique style for sure. We're not looking for any kind of refinement in a way that like takes away from the character of the wash itself. We've actually done the opposite in designing these custom stills. And so, even our new make, which we often jokingly refer to as barley eau de vie, it's just really delicious. It's rich with character. It's clean. It's really wonderful. And that's the Westward way. Yeah.
100%. And then Ashur, it was a kid in a candy shop the first time I was in Portland, just for all the amazing craft breweries around the distillery. It must have been the same for you. There's some iconic brands that were there and still are there as well.
Yeah, I've been to Portland now over the period of my career probably 4 times, and it never ceases to amaze. It's such a fun place to go for a brewer, and obviously now for a brewer that likes whiskey as well. I'd been to the distillery once prior, and Miles wasn't there, unfortunately, prior to this last visit when we made this whiskey with our beer. And yeah, it's a great spot. It's a great feel. I like Portland a lot. It's got a lot of history there. Got a lot of friends there as well from my time in brewing. It's a good spot.
And your time in brewing doesn't just start recently. You're a bit of a legend in the Australian industry in craft brewing heritage. Do you want to give us your story and a little bit of Stomping Ground story? Because there are going to be some folks outside of Melbourne who are having their first Stomping Ground right now.
That's nice to know. Well, that's the thing too. Stomping Ground, we're not available outside of Victoria for the most part. This is a special release for us. We pulled back from interstate a few years ago, but I've been brewing. I first started in 2009. I was studying at the time, and I fell into a brewing career. I was studying engineering in Wollongong, and I got a job at a brew pub. Got along well with the brewer, and he invited me into the brewery, and there my passion and love for beer and brewing grew. I was always pretty keen on beer, especially being an engineering student. It's not hard to merge the two. The two passions, and from there I just sort of kept going. Got the job in Stomping Ground, got offered the job in 2013 and moved down here at the end of 2015. So we started the process building from scratch in Collingwood. We were the first brewery to start Stomping Ground in Collingwood to open after 100 years. Collingwood in Melbourne used to be the heart. It used to be a mecca for Australian brewing. There were multiple maltsters around the corner and they're still there. The buildings are still there, but they're now apartment buildings. The offices for those maltsters like Barrett Burstons, Jay Hood and Joe White are still there. And that just goes to show to the history. But there was something like 100 breweries there back in the day, and it's in a very small space. Wow. So we started in 2016 and started just with a brew pub, selling to a few pubs nearby. We didn't start packaging until the end of 2017, and we've had a fair bit of success and growth since then. And now our main goal at Stomping Ground is to be a local neighbourhood brewery, and we want to be the go-to beer when people come to Melbourne, when they visit Melbourne, kind of like Westward would want to be the go-to whiskey when people go to the Pacific Northwest. They go to Oregon, they go to Portland, they know Westward whiskey. That's kind of what we wanted from our brand and from our beer.
100%. Look, it was in loving both of your boozers that it felt like there was this wonderfully intrinsic connection between them.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of how the conversation started, where, I mean, we're at Westward, we're very collaborative, but it isn't just sort of, throwing something in the wall to see if it sticks. It's looking at, what people are creating, what they're putting out, and then talking to them, hearing their vision, their approach. And I mean, that's, to me, Ashur, that's how we first got connected when you and I made a strong ale, and then we connected with Proud Mary Coffee Roasters, who are, just down the way from you. And they've got one of their few, international locations here in Portland, and that it just kind of brought everything together at the beginning there, and it just really started to gather speed, and we kept going with it.
That's right. We had some common philosophies, and three great brands for that first release and the second release, for that matter. Yeah,
cool. I've got some of the Into the Wood still.
Oh, that's the very first one, I think.
Yeah. No,
Really?
I didn't. Yeah, the Bunker Porter didn't make it here.
Yeah,
for me.
That's 100% my fault. If anyone in the comments wants to hang it on me,
that's why I mentioned it.
On my desk that I just couldn't let go of.
Thanks a lot.
It is, I guess, that whole journey that brought us to a place where we had this amazing brewery that was keen to work with Westward, and this incredible distillery that was keen to work with Stomping Ground, and then it was a case of kind of how in the world do you coordinate what is the world's biggest international collab? I mean, between a brewery and a distillery, this will be record breaking. And then in terms of how many people just cracked a can and poured themselves a whiskey, this is going to be the world's biggest boilermaker as well. Which actually, and I'm so sorry you don't have the beer, Miles, but for anyone who hasn't had a boilermaker before, who's having their first, before we get into the production of both of those things, can you tell us from top to bottom how on earth you should be drinking these two?
Oh, you've already got these poured.
Sorry, do you want me to? Yeah.
Sorry, I'll do that. I only just cracked.
Yeah, as far as like boilermakers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, like, I'm fond of just like kind of how we're doing it now. Neat whiskey, beer in the glass, sip one, chase it with the other. Beautiful. Yeah.
Not complicated, is it? But
not at all.
No, you don't shot one and then drink the other by any means. No, it's more about understanding the merging of flavors that you can get between one and the other. So you try to make things match, sometimes with a boilermaker. And last year when Miles came over and Westward came over, we did another release, which was a smaller release, but we won't get into that too much. But we did a few tastings at different venues for that, where we had some contrasting boilermakers, and it's kind of the same as when you're pairing food and wine or food and beer. You sometimes do that to not so much to throw people, to get them to think about things. And to be perfectly frank, I prefer things that match well and that don't contrast, that complement, because it can throw you a fair bit.
I love that. Yeah. And it is right. Sometimes, like when we were doing those contrasting pairings, it brings something out more to the forefront that maybe you wouldn't have spotted, beforehand. Yeah. But I mean, and this boilermaker, I mean, this was made to go together, right? Like one is from the other, like it is baked into the process, right? This is made to be this way.
Absolutely. Yes. And I've got so many questions in the comments from folks saying, how on earth did you actually do this? So I'm going to start at the idea phase, and then Ashur, Miles, I think. Then we go, how the hell did we actually make this all happen, and how many flights did it take? So idea phase was, I mean, we had these two incredible people who were up for working on booze together, and then it was, how do you take, what was at the time, I guess, our next Australian flavor of collaboration with Westward? I mean, we were hot on the heels, or kind of in the middle of doing the Rutherglen Muscat cask matured Westward, which felt so intrinsically Australian fortified wine industry, which was like bringing some of the traditional world of whiskey production in the fortified wine element of it, but then giving it this Australian twist. And that meant that Miles and I were spending a lot of time in Rutherglen drinking wine, which was really tough. And
I
maybe,
hated it.
yeah, you hated the whole thing. But maybe on the back of that, we just decided that we needed a beer. But maybe it was more that Stomping Ground has this connection with Westward, that it became this idea of like, let's take that Australian idea. What's the most Australian thing you can have? And how do we bring that to craft beer? And how do we bring that to whiskey, right?
Totally. And that, I mean, you like the Whisky Club Australia and Westward, we'd gotten to the point in our partnership where we were actually like beyond collaborating, we were creating together.
Yeah.
Right. We were brainstorming together and envisioning together and having, worked with Ashur and knowing just, the accolades, the prestige, the vision that this brewery has, and that we had already started working with them in a way that, I don't know, it all kind of snowballed. Who brought up Lamington?
There you go.
Sorry.
Because we don't have those in the US.
No.
We don't have those.
It was a funny one. So it was the first time we'd actually done any flavoring. That's the first and only time we've done any type of other flavoring in this beer. The Bunker's been one of our most well received, which started as a small release, and we had it as a regular beer in our run from a packaging perspective. Like we always have it on tap, but we've never really adulterated it at all. And when Margot ran that suggestion by us, I was like, oh, I'm cool with it. But there's some people, that aren't going to be really happy about it. Anyway, it's a no-brainer though, from the flavors that you can get from the Lamington, the original Lamington, minus the raspberry jam, of course, because that would throw too much.
Controversial.
It is. It is. I don't know whether that's the difference between us and New Zealand or not, but there'll be some comments there about that, perhaps. But yeah, the coconut, the chocolate, the vanilla, and all those things. The vanilla that you might get from the sponge cake. Those things are all present in a whiskey anyway, and they're the sort of flavors that we try and get a little bit. Try and impart some of those flavors in a dark beer, with the chocolate most definitely. But the coconut you can do as well, depending on the toasted malt that you have.
Well, this would be what you're looking for from a good virgin American oak cask as well, Miles, right? That's got to be on your spectrum of flavors that are green flags.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, once I think I once in Australia had Lamington, loved it, but definitely needed some more reference. Margot did send some over. She also sent a recipe to us, our VP of guest services, Kelly, who's also like a brilliant baker, brings stuff in all the time. So I handed that over to her, and she made Lamingtons, and they were delicious. Frame of reference to kind of start with. But yeah, I mean, the base was already there, right? Yeah, that sort of vanilla and coconut that are, hallmark flavors that you get from American oak in American whiskeys, or really any whiskeys that are going into virgin oak, American oak, for sure. A great base and what I really liked about this, and the challenge that I saw right away, was obviously we don't want this to be some sort of like novelty, right? This isn't flavored whiskey. We're not making a chocolate flavored whiskey, but that there are ways to naturally sort of extract some of these flavors, right, from either oak or Ashur sent me the recipe for the Bunker Porter. We got all those specialty grains together. You were both there, for the brew, made this beer together, and just kind of getting other ideas about, the different aspects of Lamington and how to sort of coax that out of different things. And, that it timed well with, I've been experimenting with a lot of different like exotic wood casks. And that gave me some ideas about how I could get a bit more of maybe sort of the, sort of vanilla sponge cake aspect, or some of the like baking spice aspect, more of the coconut for sure. But yeah, right away it seemed like we were starting with a very good base.
Yeah, and I'll jump you back one moment, because there's an insane thing that happened there, in that Ashur got on a plane. you sorted all of the specialty malts for him and Ashur. We'll go through the mash bill in a second. But that was actually brewed at Westward on Westward's normal distillery gear. That's a level of collaboration that just couldn't happen at any other distillery, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is what you get when you have brewers making whiskey. We have a 30-barrel system that we make our wash on. That we can collaborate with brewers like this and do something like this. And shout out to our maltster, Great Western and Country Malt Group here that happily hunted down all these different malts and hooked it up for us and got everything going like in record time. Like they were big on helping out with that. But we were set up and ready to make Ashur's beer when you guys got here.
Yeah, we arrived. We saw a pallet of crazy malts. I was impressed immediately, Ashur. I mean, talk us through what's a normal bunker and then what made the bunker Lamington.
Okay, so we had the bulk of the malt bill is pale malt. So in Australia, we were actually using Simpson's. It's been a couple of years since we did this collaboration in particular, but we were using Simpson's Maris Otter predominantly for our base malt. We've since gone on to using something which is a bit more like the Great Western malt that you guys are using, which is our trad. We did trial comparisons of that, and it came up. People weren't able to pick it in a blind test. But as far as our specialties go, we use all Simpson's chocolate and crystals. I just find that that Simpson's is an English brand. They're an English maltster, really old one. They make fantastic malts, and particularly their specialties. I really enjoy them. I've trialled a variety of different specialties over the last 15 or so years, and I can never get the same flavour that I can get with their malt. So that's why we use them. So there's chocolate malt, and the Simpsons is quite dark in terms of chocolate as well. There's chocolate, roast barley. There's imperial malt, which is an English type of Munich malt. There's a dark roasted crystal and a light roasted crystal. Then we throw in some oats as well, just to round out that body a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, got to have a few oats in there. And then the hop regime is, which, to be fair, just before anyone freaks out, we didn't use any hops in the Westward distilled version. That doesn't go across so well when distilled. It's very fruity, oily even. But yeah, we use hops from American Pacific Northwest. So we use Centennial, as well as an English variety EKG, which is East Kent Goldings. And then the yeast, at that time, we didn't have local Australian manufacturer of this type of yeast, of this English type of yeast that was a fresh yeast, so it wasn't a dried version. So we were actually importing our yeast from Oregon, from Portland, from just outside of Portland, from Y Yeast, and they were the ones who were supplying us with the London type ale yeast. So that was a pretty cool crossover that we found out at the time. So yeah, and for many years we used that yeast, and we'd literally buy it in fresh, come over, cold freight, which isn't great for air miles and all the rest of it, but. Yeah, since then we've got a fantastic manufacturer in Australia who's producing it locally, and we work really well with them. So that's what we're currently using, and that's what we use in this one. Same strain of yeast, but more locally produced. It's been a great asset. And then when it comes to the Lamington version, we've got toasted coconut, we've got chocolate nibs from Dominican Republic. And some cacao from, I think it's Nicaragua, where the cacao came from. So we use some chocolate nibs, cacao, as well as cocoa husks. I don't know whether you've ever eaten cocoa husks, but they add a very toasty element. So the nibs themselves are what they crush and make the cocoa powder out of. And when you eat them, they're really nutty. They're nutty, a little bit oily, but they're delicious. I eat them by the handful, but and we had those actually in the States as well. And they're not bitter. They're nothing like that. They're really quite creamy and nice. But the husks themselves become quite toasty. And they're not too dissimilar to toasted coconut, to be fair. Without that sort of coconut top note, they have a similar sort of toasty character. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
We also throw a birthday cake in. Which,
Oh, yes,
I
he
wasn't
did.
sure if we were going to mention
That was-
that or not.
yeah, actually, as I said, I think we agreed we wouldn't mention it, and I've just mentioned it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, Brew Day was my birthday, and someone did bring in cake, and we might have dry hopped a little bit of cake in the boil.
Just some sponge cake, just to give it that Lamington character.
I mean, it wasn't entirely unconnected to the final result, right? We were.
Yeah, there was no one around to talk us out of it that day.
No, that was I just, I mean, that was over 2 years ago that we started actually making everything, to kind of bring this together. And so I'm always excited when a project that's, this old comes to fruition and we get to drink it and share it and talk about it. And
of course,
it's wonderful. But, so yeah, we made about 16,000 liters of beer over 2 days and filled 80 casks, 80 ex-Westward casks with the beer. To essentially season these casks with that porter, so we could then do a secondary in those barrels with mature whiskey to pick up a lot of those characteristics, and that's that's a daunting task, and we're not a brewery and we don't have cold storage. But Ashur, we talked about this, talking about the ABV, how it would be stable enough to actually go into these casks and sit for, we went 10 months, not in any kind of, environmentally controlled warehouse. It was just our barrel house where, when it's hot, it's hot. And when it's cold. So, it was something where every month, I was popping the bungs and tasting the beer and making sure that it was still like a pleasant beer to drink out of the barrel.
How was it?
It was wonderful. I mean, okay, look, it's so good that once, after the 10 months of seasoning, we took all the beer out and distilled it. And now we have that as a whiskey that's like, 14 months old right now.
Wow.
Put it in charred New American oak. So, we were really happy with it. I mean, it lives on, right?
Beautiful. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll check back in 3 or 4 years. See.
Sure.
See
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, and that's where we stepped in with the whiskey. I took 5-year Westward and wrapped it into these freshly emptied casks that have now been Westward, and then Ashur's delicious porter from Stomping Ground, and I guess gave it almost nearly a year. The malt was in secondary, just soaking up all that great beer characteristic from that cask. And that's where from a flavor perspective, thinking about how we could kind of bring this all together, I wanted to bring more of that sort of chocolate icing, sort of fudgy note in Lamington. For me, that meant using some of our actual like stout cask Westward as well. Like I blended some of that in, but this was typically 12 to 14 months, and we were pulling whiskey out of those stout casks. These were experimental barrels that I'd had in secondary for 6 to 7 years in these stout casks. So really rich, really dark, almost sort of like umami, kind of like soy sauce notes to them. And so, incorporated some of that into the blend. I put some of the whiskey out of the porter casks into Amburana barrels. If anyone's familiar with Amburana, the Brazilian teak wood. Something that I've been experimenting with over the last couple of years. I felt like that gave a good sort of desserty sort of icing characteristic.
Like really top ends. It's not vanilla, but it's in that spectrum kind of flavor, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah, it's got some like dessert characteristics to it, but and it in small amounts, it's nice. It's a very overpowering wood if anyone's had, like a straight sort of amber on a cask single barrel, it's potent. It's, it's best used as a spice, but
that's incredible. And we've got this whiskey, and I mean, I think we corrected for two things that could have been challenges on the fly, and I think those are two of the things that make this really legitimate. And as you say, it's not a flavored whiskey, and that's in the whiskey. It couldn't be too one note, and it couldn't be too domineeringly sweet or too domineeringly chocolate or too domineeringly coconut. It has to still be whiskey. And then on the other side, the beer had to be still a porter. It still had to have that roasty bitterness to balance out all of the sugar in the whiskey as well. And I think you've both executed that really well. Miles, when you were blending the whiskey, was there any extra consideration you were having to do to correct that?
Correct it.
Yeah, to kind of
correct it if you haven't tasted
channel it in any direction.
Yeah, well, I mean, sure, there was. I mean, putting something together that we've never done is, there's endless possibilities, right? It could have, I could still be, trial blending at this point, just the amount of possibilities that there were, because again, never done it, but the song has to be done at some point, right? At some point, you got to put down the brushes and say the painting's done, it's finished. Yeah. So I had some direction there as far as what I wanted to use for like directing flavor, adding. I do feel like at one point it did actually get a little too sort of like fudgy and cocoa powder in the blend that I was doing. So I actually added, Whisky Club will love this. I added some rum cask.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I added some rum cask. Yeah, and it sort of lengthened it out. It gave it a nice sort of sugary note, but a good sort of balance from the cloying sort of sweetness, and like thinned out the fudge, but kept that sort of desserty sort of sweetness to it. Yeah, that was my other secret weapon, was some of the rum cask.
That's a wonderful tidbit. And for any members who are watching along who maybe weren't members back in 2021, that was our 2021 Westward Whiskey of the Month, was a 62.5 ABV Westward rum cask, which has gone down in infamy as one of the Whisky Club releases, especially from that year. And then Ashur, from your end on the brew, were you thinking this is going to be drank next to a whiskey? How am I going to account for that?
Yeah, a little bit. So we obviously, balance is important in everything that you want to drink. If you want to drink a lot of it, obviously don't go too crazy. But yeah, you've got to have some balance in the product to make you think at the end of it, yeah, okay, cool, I'd have another one. And so we didn't want to go too over the top with any of the flavors. We used the normal malt bill that we would use for this beer. Kept adding coconut in FV and, and fermented with the chocolate until we thought, all right, cool, we're at a pretty good point now. Like, you go just a little bit south of what you might think it's going to be right, like in the finished product. But I mean, we have the benefit of, turning it around again in 2 weeks. If anything major happened, if it was an absolute disaster, we could just go, oh, well, that wasn't good, we'll do it again. Fortunately, that didn't happen. With, the whole difference between brewing and distilling is just wild. We did it 2 years ago, and for us this year when it came up, I was like, wow, okay, cool. It seems like a long time. I didn't know whether it was actually going to happen or not, but I suppose we'll put it out and put it in, and it'll be out in a couple of weeks, and we'll send it off to you, James. Cool. See ya. So there's still a craft. There's still a craft in making it work, but there's not as much time invested. And the ingredients cost something, but the time and the patience is that was a huge learning experience for me, and I benefited a lot from that trip, not only from getting to taste and see so many wonderful things in Oregon and in Portland, but just the learning aspect of it. It's a different game, distilling, and I got a lot of respect for Miles and for Westward, for the whole team there, and for the distilling game. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, as I say, we could just add as we wanted to, and then really meter it back if needed. need to. But we didn't want to make it too sweet. It is perhaps a little dominant on the coconut, but when you drink them side by side, it actually works so well. And the chocolate and the coconut highlights things, I think, in the whiskey that are that aren't there on the first sip, because I haven't actually drank them side by side. I had a little taste of the whiskey a couple of weeks ago with my wife, and drinking them now, I think they go really well together. Sorry, you don't have any Miles.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you don't have any Miles. We'll make sure to send you a 4-pack. You've at least got your Stein. There's some tracking questions through from the members on a little bit of the production behind the scenes for both of you. So if you don't mind, I might rapid fire a few at you. And the first one is from Andrew Tucker. It's for you, Miles. And it's about the cask seasoning process. So Andrew wants to know, once a cask is seasoned, is it seasoned? Is it set like that forever? Or do you decant and then have to re-season? Or do you have to re-season halfway through?
It's a great question. It really depends on what was in there before, and even how many times the cask has been filled. But I've got some really incredible Sauternes cask from Bordeaux that I'm on my third fill with those, and they're still yielding some really cool results. But something like our stout cask, it's one and done, and our Pinot cask too. A lot of wine finishes are usually just we're using them once. And then, at that point, that barrel's been filled 5 times. I pretty much consider it neutral at that point. It totally depends, really, what was in there and how long it was in there. I've got some PX Naranja casks right now that are, I didn't know how long that was going to be, but, within a few weeks, I was pulling the whiskey out, which was a huge surprise for Westward, because it usually, it challenges whatever it goes up against in the casks. But, it totally depends, but I would say generally, if it's a lower ABV and not in the cask too long, like beer, then it's one and done.
Wow! And then for the cycle on those casks, do they just go into being refill for you for kind of longer mats and
totally exactly. If it's a cask that is made of wood that was cured outside naturally for 3 years or more, and is still I think in really good condition, I'll keep that as a neutral cask. It's a good barrel. Otherwise, we sell them on to brewers. Brewers are always looking for whiskey barrels around here. We'll usually just sell them on to other makers. Dropped a bunch off today actually to Wayfinder, which you've been to. Yeah, you guys visited Wayfinder. A couple blocks away from the distillery. Yeah,
great spot. Very, very good. I've got an amazing one here from you, for you, Ashur, from Trimo. Very keen to know, when you were brewing at Westward, obviously not set up to make beer every day, kind of. Were you found lacking anything, or could you pretty much make a normal brew day work?
Yeah, it worked really well. The only difference in the process is the boil time at Westward. Otherwise, it was exactly the same sort of milling process, same mashing, lautering, and lautering to the kettle. The boil was just a little reduced, and then it was a knockout. It was pretty straightforward. There's a few more ingredients added when we make beer in terms of hops and some nutrient things that we add, and the longer boil time. But no, definitely not lacking. I felt quite at home, and everyone was there. It was great as well, so they helped me where I didn't know where things were. It was very cool. It was a lot of fun.
I think the team was pretty impressed, at least where I was standing, and not only with your ability to brew in the gear, but also your very short shorts.
I like them short.
Same. And I think my crew appreciated that. There's no
Your
such
crew
thing.
doesn't quite understand what an ex-AFL player's footy shorts would look like, but if they did, they would. There's a cracking and absolutely typical whiskey question here for you, Miles, from Chris Pyle. He wants to know, what's the oldest cask you've got right now, and can we get a sniff at it?
300 years old.
Not talking wood age.
Wow, oldest cask. Yeah, we don't really keep track of that at Westward, but I would have to, I mean, off the top of my head, I would say probably 12 years or so. I've been with the company for 13 years. And, when I first started, we were very, very, very small, making, a handful of casks a year. And so, whenever a cask would, become mature, we would bottle it, right? So we could sell it, so we could, pay the bills. So, for the first few years, Westward was just single cask releases, and it wasn't an exclusivity thing. It was just because that's all we had. So, we weren't really holding on to anything at that point.
Yeah.
That wasn't really a goal of ours, but also, we said we weren't sourcing, we were making the whiskey ourselves. So when it was ready to go in the bottle, it went into the bottle. But yeah, I'd say around then I started to make a lot more whiskey, with the, in the distillery. And I eventually, gained control over the entire, inventory. So that's when I started lying and telling people that we were out of stuff that was that old and that we should not worry about it anymore. So I have been able to stash some things away that, yeah, I'd say probably 12 and a half years old.
That's awesome. And if that's the lie you're saying publicly, there's another lie that you actually mean. So I cannot wait for a 15-year-old to come out next year. There's something that I think is so quintessentially Westward, and I cannot for the life of me find the comment, but I saw it fly by earlier, and that's texture. I think Westward Spirit has this just unmatchable texture as a whiskey. What do you put that down to? And a follow-up question for Ashur afterwards about how that works from a brewing lens.
Yeah, I mean, it's our stills. It's the custom design stills that we had built in Louisville for us that are very low reflux, very very short swan necks, quick runs through the line arm that are angled down towards the condenser. Shotgun shell and tube style condenser, and it's done in a way that just keeps a lot of the character. That's the idea. Big fan of the Campbelltown style of single malt that's just big and oily and sits on the palate. And that's something that we wanted to do with Westward. I mean, it's again, it's American single malt, right? It's a new style of single malt. We of course love all kinds of single malt, and I think pay reverence to it as we make the whiskey. But yeah, we wanted to make our own statement with it, and so that big robust palate is part of it, and that's absolutely the shape of our stills and how we distill it. Yeah.
Awesome. For you, how does texture play a part, especially on a beer like a thumping porter like this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think malt is the biggest thing for us. Malt and yeast. Actually, there are a few different things that play into it. Not getting distilled, not getting the alcohol out of it. We really have to balance out the flavour of the malt, how the yeast behaves with it, and how much residual sugar you might have left, because that's a big part of it. Also, the water profile. So the water profile in beer like this, we try to match to something that would be reminiscent of London water. London being where the porter originated. Yeah, not as in modern London. It's not like we're trying to get water out of the Thames and brew with it, because that'd be a disaster. But no, fairly high carbonate, fairly low sulfate, and sulfate will accentuate too much hop flavour and too much roastiness and would be quite harsh. The carbonate sort of balances that out and softens off the roast and allows for a more rounded flavour with that you can focus on the chocolate and the coffee and the caramel that you might expect to get from those styles of malt. The yeast, some yeasts you can finish at a similar sort of finishing gravity, meaning the similar residual sugar level, but the beer will taste thin, and others you can use and they will taste really full. And so we want to aim to have a yeast that will taste, not be cloying, so it won't taste sickly sweet, but it will feel full. And so that's where the London yeast works really well with that. So that's how all three of those things sort of play together pretty well. yeah, so we balance. We filter our water, and our water, Melbourne water, we're very lucky. It's very, very clean. It's not dissimilar, to be perfectly honest. It's not dissimilar to what you might expect in the Czech Republic and the old Czech Republic. It's very soft, very low mineral content. So we have a great canvas with which to work every time we create a new beer. We don't have to filter it out or distill it or anything like that. It's just like get the chlorine out. We know where we're at, low levels of everything, and we can just build from there. So it makes it quite easy.
Beautiful.
That's awesome. As someone who's doing a lot of brews in Portland, do you find it quite so easy, Miles, or is there more going into your side?
Well, we're also we're lucky to have really good water here. That's on the softer side. I mean, we're getting water from the Cascade Mountains that comes straight down, and it's also at Stomping Ground, it is the city water, right? But it's gorgeous, and all we're really doing, same thing, is dechlorinating it, and that's it. We don't treat it in any way whatsoever. It's beautiful, water coming down from the mountains. It's snow melt, rainfall from the Cascades that we get, and beautiful for a lot of styles of beer, and I mean, great for what we're doing with our whiskey.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Look, it's so nice to, I think, come back to this years later after we started this project, and it's an absolute treat to sit on this virtual hang with you guys. And I wish we could have everyone on who was a part of this, because there are so many amazing people that made this happen. But to all the members who mostly make something like this happen, I do have one question for you, which is, of course, this time we were able to send out a free can of beer with each one of these whiskeys. If we do more stuff like this, if we take some of these crazier big swings, do you want to see it? Do you want to see more of it? Please sound off in the comments. We would love to hear from you. For everyone watching along, as always, we've got our giveaway for the wonderful members who are commenting along. So Michael Duncombe, congratulations to you. Someone from our wonderful customer service department will be in touch either tonight or early tomorrow morning with all the details. But a massive cheers to you. And Miles, Ashur, I mean, do you have any parting thoughts for the members before I wrap this sucker up?
Well, what is it, 2 a.m. for you? So you've probably got a lot of thoughts on your mind.
It's nearly 3.
Yeah, there you go. No, look, this has been such a fun experience for me, and something very different to what we normally do. I saw a different side of Westward. I'd tasted a lot of whiskey prior to that, but it's such a unique whiskey, such a delicious whiskey. It was a great business to be company to be involved with. This whole thing's been so fun. Seamus, you as well, and everyone at the Whisky Club, thank you. That's my parting comment. Has been this has been a lot of fun and eye-opening for me, as I hope it was for everyone else involved tonight.
Absolutely. Really well said. And cheers to you, Ashur. I think something like this can only happen if we're all agreed to do it, right? I think that's a big step. Like, it sounds like an easy thing, but it's not. To get people together to agree to do something like this that is so massive, that does span the Pacific Ocean, that takes years to put together. That's huge, and that's a certain kind of commitment that is rare. I honestly think that's the way. As someone from a brand that collaborates a lot or tries to, these things, they just they don't always work out. And I love the relationship that we have with the Whisky Club. That we develop these ideas together, and they become real. And then we get to rope in amazing brewers who are also game to it. And I mean, I loved having the guys at the distillery, hosting you there. We took you around Portland. We took you whitewater rafting, right? One day.
Oh yeah.
Not the full experience, but I think that was just part of all of this. I took you guys to some swim hole. We had to climb over a bunch of fallen trees.
That was cool.
Yeah.
It was about 3 degrees. Yeah.
You like that? Okay, good.
We got to see you in short shorts then too. That was quite good.
But also, I mean, to the Whisky Club members, we could do this, but if no one cared or if no one supported it, then it wouldn't go anywhere. So thank you for the support. Thank you for being interested in this and cheering us on, because otherwise it wouldn't happen. So thank you.
Yeah,
Massive
well said.
cheers. The only parting thought for all the Whisky Club members is we did leave a few bottles behind the scenes that are now live for anyone who is desperate enough to pick up another one. Everyone knows that, oh my God moment when you open a bottle of whiskey and realize you forgot to get a second one. So for anyone who is having that moment right now, those bottles are right there. But for the three folks on the screen, including me, and for all of the members watching on, just like to say a massive cheers. Two massive cheerses.
Cheers.
Have a great night.
Right. Cheers. Thank you.